Video game / Infernax. Video game. YMMV. Create new. Infernax is a retro horror action platformer game by Berserk Studio, who also made Just Shapes and Beats in the Breach, released on February 15, 2022, available on the Nintendo Switch, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X and Series S, and Microsoft Windows. The game follows a duke named Alcedernote, who, after becoming disillusioned and tired of the violence that the Crusades brought, returns to his homeland of Yupel. Unbeknownst to him, in his absence it has now been infested by both the undead and demonic forces, with only a handful of living people still around. As his adventure begins, you shall decide the fate of this land and its people, whether for the better or for worse. The gameplay and overall style is reminiscent to Castlevania II, Simon's Quest, with upgrades for your equipments, and it includes a feature of a morality system depending on your actions, and this reflects on your ending as a result. Here are the official and announcement trailers from Berserk Studios' YouTube account. You can also check out the game's website and Twitter account. Infernax provides the following tropes. Acid pool. Acid pits are one of 3 types of liquid hazards that will instantly kill Alster if he so much as falls into them. Having this happen will cause a similar death to falling in lava, where Alster gets vaporized by the liquids. Always chaotic evil. Demons and undead are presented as utterly, irredeemably evil. In the 2 scenarios that involve either sparing or killing them, the caged demon and Remus, sparing them will lead to innocents being killed and a hit to Alster's karma meter. And then John was a zombie. In the evil ending, Alster survives his encounter after killing Belphegor, but the evil within him turns him into an undead wretch who gets chased away by Yupel soldiers. Auto-scrolling level. The battle against Alaster is a platform battle above a huge pool of acid while the screen slowly scrolls to the left to reveal more platforms. Art shift. Most of the gameplay is in a modernized NES art style, but certain cutscenes are given more beautiful and gory detail and quite amazing pixel art. Ascend to a higher plane of existence. The credits of the redemption ending show Alster ascending into heaven. Attack its weak point. Bigger bosses have defined weak points you can attack to either actually damage them, or just do extra damage against them. Badass biker. In the future ending, Alster has a slick Harley-Davidson-like motorcycle as a transport. Badasses wear bandanas. Alster wears a red headband, a rather defining part of his outfit. It's the only original part of his outfit that he keeps on his person in the future ending, with his armor being replaced by a more modern yet still badass tank top, fingerless gloves, pants and boots. He wouldn't look out of place in Contra. Badass normal. Tancred's forces don't employ any magic, but they're still able to repel the undead that stalk the countryside, and despite their dark magic the cultists have to spend almost the entire game mustering a force large enough to take Darsov. Should Alster turn evil, he'll be greeted with a ballista, and Tancred, his captain and sergeants show themselves to be some of the most dangerous enemies in the game. Special mention goes to the axe sergeant, who fights like a ninja that jumps around and throws unlimited axes everywhere, and Tancred, who can not only take a beating, but can dish out one as well with his surprising mobility. Baphomet. Several scenes will show a very brief red flash with a silhouette of Baphomet. He turns out to be the true big bad and true final boss of the ultimate good ending. Barbarian hero. Axeter, one unlockable character, is a shirtless warrior with a loincloth and boots, and an unruly mane of hair. He looks a lot like Conan the Barbarian. Beast with a human face. Before their boss fight, Crossel is initially shown as a green-colored woman's face in the dark before the rest of their misshapen, frog-like body is revealed. The Lord of Maggot appears to be a giant green maggot with the head of an old, bearded human bishop wearing a black, pentagram-marked mitre. Belly mouth. Calaman's belly appears to have a huge mouth from which his guts hang out. BFS. Certain bosses carry large swords when engaged in combat. If Alster himself chooses the path of evil, he will swap out his mace and shield for a longsword. You can forego the evil route and start with the longsword if you name your save swordseater. BFG. In the final boss fight for the future ending, once Alster is sent to the modern times, his mace/longsword will be replaced with a machine gun. One that has been blessed and passed down through multiple generations, and marked with multiple holy sigils. It's the only weapon that can put the final boss Azazel down for good. Bloody horror. Copious amounts of red bodily fluids to enhance and complement the horror. Several bosses will explode into a shower of blood and guts when they're killed, often covering Alster in them. Blood-splattered warrior, deal enough damage to enemies and you'll quickly be covered in their blood. Body horror, most of the demons and undead are obviously not lookers, and all of them are hideously deformed. Some of them even have their guts hanging out, such as Calamon. Bookends, the start of the game features an aberration smashing through the gateway into Darzov. On an Ultimate Evil playthrough this will happen again, only this time with Alster on the side of the invaders. Boss Bonanza. In the Ultimate Good path, Urzan Citadel has several encounters with enemies based off previous boss battles, many of which are dual bosses. In the Ultimate Evil path, the Siege of Darzov has Alster face a few boss enemies, including 2 sergeants, a scorpion ballista, the captain, and finally Tancred. Bottomless magazines, most likely one of the blessings given to the machine gun that Alster uses in the path to the future ending, as he can shoot an endless amount of bullets like any run-and gun worth their salt. Bottomless pit, like most, they are in this game. However, the death scene shown after falling in one reveals that down below are a long set of spikes. Carry a big stick, Alster's starting weapon is a simple round-headed mace. He can get different types as the game goes on. Alternatively, he can forego maces altogether and arm himself with a BFS should he turn evil. Checkpoint starvation, casual mode places save shrines in several dungeons, often at the halfway point to allow Alster to save, heal, upgrade and replenish lives. Classic mode removes all save shrines in dungeons, making every dungeon this. Close-range combatant, while other humanoid enemies use throwing axes, spears or magical fireballs as projectiles, Alster is restricted to just his mace or sword. In the late game he finally gains the ability to enchant his weapon with holy light or hellfire, and have it shoot fireballs, but given the cost of the spell this isn't something he can use constantly without a lot of mana potions. Cutscene boss. Robert in the Ultimate Good ending path. After dispatching his skeleton and cultist guards, he gets unceremoniously shot down by Tancred's guards mid-rant. If you choose to kill Remus, Alster kills him in a cutscene instead of fighting him. The main danger actually occurs when his ally Brutus sets the house on fire to kill Alster in revenge. In the Ultimate Evil ending, Alster uses the Necronomicon to have Abaddon tear Belphegor apart, skipping the latter's boss fight. Likewise, in the Ultimate Good ending, Alster uses the Necronomicon to open a portal to Hell in order to invade it, at which point Baphomet reaches out to grab Belphegor by the face and violently drag him into the portal while crushing his head, killing him. Decapitation presentation. In the Ultimate Good ending, Alster is shown doing this with a demon's head as he and his army rid Yupil of any remaining demonic influence. Demonic possession. A game filled with demons would naturally have a few people possessed by them. The very first karmic choice has Alster deal with a possessed man. Killing him will end his life, attempting to save him will cause Paimon, the demon possessing him, to messily and painfully transform him into the first boss. A side quest involves having to cure a woman's possessed husband. Depending on whether holy light or hellfire is used on him, he will either be purged of the demonic influence and reunite with his wife, or have his transformation into a demon fully completed before killing his wife. One quest has a priest possessed by an unknown demon, as he floats in the air with ominous pink clouds surrounding him. Alster can deal with this by either finding Gregor to exorcise the man, or by simply killing the possessed man. Getting killed by a night fiend or a night beast will cause them to jump inside Alster before making him violently explode. Dual boss. A number of the battles in the Urzan Citadel on the Ultimate Good ending path involve facing rehashes of previous bosses, only that you're now attacked by 2 of them, one from each side. They're usually weaker and more vulnerable than their boss variants, but still tough fights. The Ultimate Evil path pits you against an axe sergeant and a sword sergeant at the same time during the Siege of Darzov. Thanks to their tendency to jump around and corner the player, as well as the former's projectile spam, it can be a surprisingly tough fight for 2 relatively minor human characters. Drought level of Doom. Urzan Citadel in the Ultimate Good path is a marathon level with tons of powerful enemies, several mini-boss encounters, and a few tricky platforming segments. In casual mode, there's a save shrine that allows Alster to heal up. In classic mode, there are none. Hope you brought enough healing potions, mana potions, and elixirs, which can only be replenished at towns. Evil costume switch. If Alster joins the cultists, he will change his white Crusader attire to a red set, and his armor upgrades get darker instead of lighter, eventually turning red and black and evil all over. Evil is easy. Several evil choices tend to require less effort than the good choices, with many of them involving less combat or even avoiding boss fights altogether. The first choice of the game involves dealing with a possessed man. The good option of saving him causes him to turn into a boss battle. The evil option to kill him just ends in then and there, skipping the boss fight altogether. Two different quest givers will ask Alster to destroy Arko's dam and burn all the villages. Should Alster take the good option of never accepting, the former will turn into a wolfpack boss against a group of specters, while the latter turns into the Faceless One, a full-fledged boss battle. The evil option doesn't require doing any combat when complying with their orders. To deal with the possessed priest, the good option requires finding Gregor to exorcise the man, and Alster needs to kill a werewolf boss to access Gregor's abode. The evil option is to simply slay the possessed there and then. There are two ways to deal with the murderous skeleton Remus. The good option of slaying him will save his target, but his ally Brutus will burn Remus' house and turn the way out into a death course, and Alster is forced to fight Brutus later on. The evil option of sparing Remus will cause him to kill his target, but Alster gets a safe exit from his house, and the fight against Brutus is skipped entirely. The ultimate evil path lacks a long endgame dungeon with tons of enemies and bosses compared to the ultimate good path, although the attack on Darsov does contain its own boss bonanza. Eyes do not belong there. A good number of demons have eyes in unnatural spots, and these are often their weak points. Calamon has eyes replacing his nipples, which goes along with his belly mouth to give the appearance of another face on his torso. Leviathan has an eye in their belly that can fire out a wave motion gun. They also have eyes on their hands, which they use to cast fire spells. Apollyon has an eye in his belly that opens up to fire out fireballs or spawn eyeball mooks. Crossel's mouth opens up to reveal a giant eye that fires a spread shot of fireballs. Failure is the only option. The ultimate evil path has a quest that will be failed killing Tancred, his guards, and optionally destroying their ship at the shores of Yupel before they can make land. While the guards and the ship can be destroyed, Tancred will survive and escape in a cutscene no matter how much damage you deal to him, as his story-driven invulnerability only expires during the siege of Darsov. Fan disservice, Baphomet has a pair of human breasts. He's also a demon who is not pleasant on the eyes. Fighter, Mage, Thief, the three unlockable bonus characters that you can play as are Exeter, an axe-wielding barbarian with high attack, Gardican, a wizard who uses spells with regenerating mana and very poor defense, and Maxine Gunn, a long-ranged gunner who plays more like a Contra character. Flunky Boss, several bosses have the ability to spawn smaller enemies. The Necro fought in the barn only teleports around while summoning zombies. Mahalmon can spawn flying eyeballs from his belly. Calamon can drop skeletons into the battle via cages. Apollyon can spawn flying eyeballs from his belly when he's flying. Crossel can spawn hopping imps from the mouth on their belly. The Faceless One can use his hands to pull zombies out of the ground. Paymon's true form will often climb on the ceiling and drop showers of eggs that spawn roaches. Baphomet can summon two different kinds of enemies, demonic bats from a pentagram symbol, or a swarm of eyeballs from their belly. Genre shift. The game is mostly Castlevania-like, taking place in medieval times, and with most of your attacks needing to be up close and personal. But, if you take the path to the future ending, the game will take a hard shift in genre, as Alster gets sent several years into the future, waking up in modern times, where he is greeted by the descendants of the people of Yupel, whom have kept a holy machine gun that has been blessed several times and passed down several generations for safekeeping as a weapon Alster can use to finally purge the demonic forces. The game then turns into a run-and-gun action game like Contra, with Alster even sporting a similar outfit to the main protagonists in those games. The final battle of Ultimate Evil is an unexpected shmup level where Alster sprouts demonic wings and flies through hell shooting fireballs at Abaddon. Get out! If Alster chooses to expel Robert and his cultist vagabonds from their initial campsite, he will issue them a stern get out, while pointing away. Gorn. It wouldn't be a Berserk Studio game if there wasn't copious amounts of ludicrous gibs and gore. Several bosses in particular will explode into showers of blood and gore when killed, covering Alster in their viscera. God dang it, the player will need to complete the majority of side quests to reach the ultimate good or evil endings, and some are hidden in obscure places or require using a spell in ways that aren't obvious. There's a quest giver in a lone hut on the shores of Yupel, the starting area. The player has little reason to backtrack to this area, and if they happen to do so at night, then the door will remain locked. An evil side quest involves burning all 3 villages. The game provides no clue that the way to do this is by casting the Thunderstorm or Firestorm spell. Likewise, doing so is also the only way to destroy the boat that Tancred and his guards arrive in, on an ultimate evil path. Some events like a mugging or the caged beast only take place if the player travels through a specific area at night. The extremely useful teleport spell is located in a random hut the player cannot access on their first trip, on a path the player has little reason to return to. The player is used to using their Thunderstorm spell as an attack, so it may not occur to them to use it to summon the Stormheim dungeon, which only appears during storms. Talking to the people at the Stormheim shore and will mention them seeing the castle during a storm, but those are the only hints you'll get. Hard levels, easy bosses. Several of the dungeons contain rather hellish platforming segments where one mistake is an instant life loss thanks to water, lava, acid, or bottomless pits. The bosses, in contrast, have rather predictable attack tells and oftentimes deal less damage than the enemies in the area. Healing checkpoint. Shrines will refill Alster's health and mana, and will also restore any lost lives in the process. Helmets are hardly heroic. The only kind of headgear on Alster's head is a red headband. This is even more noticeable in the intro, where his fellow crusaders wear different kinds of crusader/knight helmets. Heroes prefer swords, inverted. Only as a villain does Alster wield a sword. Inexplicably preserved dungeon meat, parroted. Eating the wall chicken just causes Alster to get sick and vomit, questioning what he was thinking when he decided to eat it. Karma meter. Certain actions will give Alster positive or negative karma points, which influences the choices he can take as well as the endings he can obtain. Klingon promotion. In the ultimate evil path, Alster can choose to off Robert instead of submitting to him after he successfully takes over Darsov. This makes Alster become the new leader of the cultists. Konami code. As part of its heavy Castlevania and other NES titles, inspirations, the classic cheat code is present in the game. Inserting it at the title screen results in changing the entire gameplay into the Contra-styled run-and-gun combat of the future level. Luckily, my shield will protect me. While not as prominent as his mace or magic, Alster's shield provides useful cover against most projectiles launched at his direction. Evil Alster drops this in favor of a huge claymore. Magic Knight. Alster is a badass crusader that is well versed in both might and magic, already having some experience fighting in the Crusades and even starting the game with a decent amount of mana. The many deaths of you, most enemies and obstacles you die from will feature a scene of Alster becoming brutalized by them. Expect being stabbed to death, burned alive, or even get blown to bits. Or drown. Moral event horizon. In universe, sacrificing Jarvis to the cultists will deem Alster beyond redemption and lock the player out of the good paths. Before this, he can commit a few evil deeds, but still be redeemed. Multiple endings, quite a few of them to go around, some of them morality-based. Coward. After killing his first enemy, Alster decides that he should hightail it out of there, leaving on the ship he came from in the direction he arrived. Drowsiness. Alster chooses to sleep heavily in the inn rather than fight the demons and monsters infesting the land, as the village burns outside his window. Submission. After helping Robert take over Darsov, Alster submits to him and becomes his servant in corrupting the lands. Good. Alster defeats Belphegor but succumbs to his wounds. He is hailed a hero and a statue is erected in his honor. Evil. Alster defeats Belphegor but survives his wounds. However, he's little more than a zombified wretch who is chased away by the guards of Yupel. Redemption. Alster defeats Belphegor but succumbs to his wounds. Despite the evil deeds he had done, his selfless sacrifice in saving Yupel gives him a chance at redemption, and he is escorted to heaven by 2 angels before 2 demons can get to him. Ultimate good. Alster defeats Baphomet, giving him an ultimate victory against the demonic invasion. With Father Henry's help, he destroys the Necronomicon and gathers an army of warriors to purge the rest of the evil from the lands. Ultimate evil. Alster defeats Abaddon, furthering his thirst for conquest. With Yupel no longer enough for him, he uses the Necronomicon to start a reign of unholy terror across both hell and earth. Future, Alster defeats Azazel in the future. He then celebrates the end of his quest and rides into the sunset on a motorbike, towards whatever the future may hold. Nice day, deadly night, stronger and more aggressive enemies roam the lands at night. A few side quests can also only be done after the sun goes down. Not quite dead. If Paimon is killed at the start of the game, the wife of his vessel will reveal that his spirit isn't gone yet. Alster can help her to revive Paimon, then put him down permanently this time. Not quite the right thing, played within the very first choice of the game. Alster encounters a possessed man who begs the Crusader to kill him. Doing as he says and killing him to end his life and misery might seem like a good idea, but his wife will witness this and despise Alster for killing her husband. Attempting to save him will cause the demon possessing him to painfully and messily transform him into the first boss, and when killed, his wife will also witness this, but understand that Alster tried to save him, giving him more respect in a side quest. Not so well-intentioned extremist, some cultists claim to be trying to create a better world, but their obviously evil methods and spiteful actions show they're only really in it for themselves. Obviously evil. Robert and his cult. Even before their true nature is officially revealed, and they're posing as simple vagabonds, they act incredibly shifty and seem nonplussed about the demonic invasion. Edgar, the mayor of Kasky, treats his citizens very horribly and appears just as shifty as Robert. Turns out, he's also working for the cultists. There are two different side quest givers who request Alster to do rather horrific deeds for them, burning the villages and destroying Arko's dam to flood it. If Alster refuses them outright, they drop their human guys and turn out to be ghostly monsters that will attack him. Painful transformation. The first living human that Alster meets on Yupel is a possessed man who's clearly contorting in pain. Trying to save him will cause the demon possessing him to horrifically and gorily transform him into the first boss Paimon, starting with causing his heart to burst out of his ribcage. Platform Battle. Alaster's Battle is an auto-scrolling level which involves various, semi-randomly placed layers of floating platforms over a pool of instant death acid where Alaster pops up from. Azazel's battle takes place on 6 platforms above the lava, and his attacks can knock Alster off the platforms if the player is not careful. To make matters dicier, Azazel will periodically spew 3 fireballs which temporarily take out any platforms they land on. Potty failure. In the ultimate good ending path, this happens to Mayor Edgar when he's caught by Alster and his soldiers and brought to the gallows for hanging. The section of his robes around his groin gets a darker patch that spreads downwards, indicating that he pissed his pants. Press start to game over. It's possible to die before fighting your first enemy by jumping off the boat into the water. However, the boatman will repeatedly try to stop Alster and push him back until he finally gives up after 8 times. Because of this, it's actually much faster to get a game over from being killed by the first enemy, or earn a non-standard game over by killing it, returning to the boat, and choosing to get out of there. Protagonist journey to villain. It's possible for Alster to slip into villainy depending on his choices and actions, eventually joining the cultists, and in the ultimate evil ending, completes his transformation from protector to unholy scourge. Rated M for manly. You play as a hardened crusader that bashes and slices giant demons to death in orgies of blood and gore. This becomes more prominent and over the top in the future ending. Alster is shown shoving his machine gun into a giant demon's body and shooting, then generally firing in the sky while screaming as blood and organs fall from the sky, and later riding into the sunset with his cool bike. Manly? You bet. Religion of Evil. The cultists led by Robert worship the demons, and even attempt to sacrifice people to summon them. Retro. The game is a tribute to the NES era of games, mainly Castlevania ones, and features sprites that are stylized after NES graphics, although with a few obvious modern touches and improvements. Sadistic choice. Subverted with one choose fate sequence where you get a choice of sacrificing a husband or wife right in front of the other, causing the survivor to fall into despair. At this point, it matters little since Alster's turned to the cultist side. Screw this, I'm outta here. One secret ending is achieved if, after killing the first enemy, you return to the boat and choose to sail away from the now cursed land of Yupel. Doing so gets the game to mock you by unlocking the Book of the Coward, whose cover is a crying portrait of Alster. Shockwave Stomp. A number of bosses in the game are capable of performing a sword plant meteor move which causes a ground shockwave to emit upon landing. Even Alster himself can gain a similar attack too once he learns the guided strike skill. Shoutout. Aside from its obvious Castlevania influence, two specific references to the series occur. The first is a wall chicken you can find in a breakable wall, and the second is a tornado that appears if you crouch at a dead end for a few seconds. The future level turns the game into Contra, as Alster mows down demons with a machine gun, and his jumping animation becomes the mid-air flips of the series' protagonists. One of the weapons available even works like the famous spread shot. Also, upon inserting the Konami code at the title screen, you can play the entire game in the run-and-gun style of the future level. The new opening even parodies the intro of Contra 3, the Alien Wars, down to the mimetic "let's attack aggressively" quote. The high-pitched screech heard in the game over screen in the demo is the death cry of the Phantom/Ghost from Forbidden Forest. Necro, the zombie-summoning zombie boss fought in the barn side quest, is likely a homage to Bob the Necromancer from Berserk Studios' earlier idle game Zombital, in which you play a dark-robed undead necromancer with a zombie army that starts out attacking barns. The drowsiness ending is clearly based on the ending from Super Mario Bros. 2. Although the obvious difference is that it wasn't all just a dream, and outside the window we see the village being razed to the ground by demons. The Siege, the ultimate good path, starts with Robert laying siege to Darsov with an army of cultists and demons, requiring Alster to defend the town alongside Tancred and his men. It's inverted in the ultimate evil path, where Alster is the one helping Robert lay siege to Darsov with an army of cultists and demons against Tancred and his guards. Siege Engines. One mini-boss fought in the ultimate evil path during the attack on Darsov is a man-scorpion ballista. Most of the battle is a corridor cubbyhole run where Alster needs to advance while timing his jumps to evade its incredibly damaging giant flaming arrows. Skippable boss. The very first boss, Paimon, can be skipped entirely if Alster chooses to kill instead of save the possessed man. This also locks you out from fighting Paimon's true form. On the ultimate good and ultimate evil paths, the normal final boss Belphegor is unceremoniously killed by either Baphomet or Abaddon respectively. Story-driven invulnerability. In an ultimate evil path, Tancred will always survive your attack on him and his guards at the shores of Yupel, no matter how much damage you and your cultists deal to him. This is because his plotline death occurs during the attack on Darsov, where the player can finally kill him for good. Summon bigger fish. In the ultimate evil ending, Alster uses the Necronomicon to summon Abaddon, whose tentacle promptly drags away and kills Belphegor. Super drowning skills. Just like in some retro games, water usually means death for our main character. Somewhat justified, as Alster is decked out in full heavy armor, sans helmet, so he definitely isn't cut out for swimming. Surprisingly realistic outcome. An Easter egg has you summoning a tornado, just like in Simon's Quest. It proceeds to tear you to pieces in a non-standard game over, because it is a tornado. In one castle, you can find some wall chicken, and it turns out that meat that's been left to rot in a wall isn't very tasty or healthy. Tennis boss, Mammon, is fought this way. It's impossible to reach it with melee attacks thanks to a huge spike pit separating you from it, and it will attack you with large balls of demonic energy or small pellets. Both can be hit back into its eyes with your mace. Unexpected shmup level. The fight against Abaddon in the ultimate evil path gives Alster unlimited flight and fireball shots as he fights the demon in a manner akin to a horizontal scrolling shooter. Unique enemy. There is only one Crucified in the entire game, and it's the very first enemy that Alster faces. Crucified are never encountered again for the rest of the playthrough. The very definitely final dungeon. The entire game is built around unlocking the door of Erzin Citadel. Opening the door results in a torrent of screaming skulls pouring out of the door. Video game lives. Alster starts out with one extra life, represented by a heart, which can be increased by buying them in stores. If Alster dies, he restarts the area he was in with one less life unless he had none, in which case it's back to the last save point. Save points incidentally replenish any lost lives. Villain's Dying Grace. The werewolf boss thanks the dupe for freeing from his torment and opens the way before finally succumbing to his wounds. Warm-up boss. Paimon can be fought 4 screens into the starting area of the game, and its fire breath attack is very predictable and avoidable. Even if it corners Alster, it cannot hit the very rightmost edge of the screen. Should the player decide to skip Paimon, the aberration would count as this. Its giant cleaver is a slow and easily telegraphed attack that can be avoided by either staying away or by crouching at a short distance in front of it. Furthermore, it also gets left stuck after attack for a short while, making it unable to attack until then. Was once a man, the possible first boss Paimon is a monstrous, skull-faced demon with an exposed ribcage containing its heart. This used to be a possessed human that Alster meets, and there's even a horrific scene of the man's transformation if the player chooses to save him. You have failed me. In the ultimate good path, Mayor Edgar attempts to retreat into the cultist's hideout tunnel to save himself from Alster and his guards. Seeing that he revealed the hideout location to Alster, the cultists collapse the tunnel with a fireball and leave Edgar to be captured by Alster for punishment. In the ultimate good ending, Baphomet kills Belphegor for failing to stop Alster from getting this far. This game contains mature themes that may not be suitable for everyone, ranging from saucy language, acts of violence in the name of justice, copious amounts of gore, and half-clothed demon people of varying degrees of attractiveness. By installing this game, you hereby agree that you are cool with this. Cool? Cool. Previous. Index. Next.